Hello, chess lovers. Nice to see you again. Today I will be talking about the very famous grandmaster by the name of Miguel Najdorf. And he was born in 1910 and lived until 1997. He got 87 years old and he had a very interesting life. And he is also named after a very famous variation in the Sicilian, the Najdorf, as you can see here, the start position of the Najdorf. And the A6 was in the fifth mode, the last, and it was a very clever multi-purpose mode because Black has a choice of playing several things, depending on what plays. And many of the most famous world champions and grandmasters plays the Najdorf still today. It's one of the big variations in the Sicilian. Bobby Fischer was popularizing this variation when he raised 60th, 70th, and the Najdorf is a very, very interesting variation in the Sicilian. About Najdorf, he started to play chess when he was 12 years old as a child in Warsaw in Poland, where he was born. And he died in Malaga during a tournament. He got a heart attack in a tournament they played in a casino, and it was in July 1997, and he had a healthy bad condition already before the heart attack, so when they tried to operate him with a new clef in the hospital, he didn't manage to survive the operation, so he died there. And his two daughters were there and mourning him by his death. Tragical. But he had a long life and a tragical one, because he had 4 brothers, mother, father, and the son, and because they were Jewish and the Nazis were trying to eliminate Jewish, he lost them during the Second World War. And that's because he was going to an Olympiad in Buenos Aires in Argentina, 1939. And 2 weeks after the Olympiad started, the chess Olympiad started, the German Nazis invaded Warsaw and Poland, and he lost all his family. So he and the other Argentine players couldn't go back to Poland because it was then already attacked and invaded of the Germans. So he had to stay in Argentina. And 1944, 4 years later, he became a citizen in Argentina as an Argentine instead. But that didn't stop him to play chess, so he started to play chess in Argentina, and he got a very strong player. And afterwards, 46 to 49, his rating was very high, about 27, 97 or something like that, different countings. And he was then, I think, the second strongest chess player in the world that time. And that was very impressive. So that's about him. When the war was exploding in Europe, 1939, he was then with in the chess Olympiad there with the other in the same team, and they stayed. After the war in Argentina, Najdorf searched for his family and tried to get them back, but they were all killed in the concentration camp there. So they were probably dead, all of them. He played. The funny thing is, he played games against Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and even the Pope afterwards in Argentina. And 11 times Najdorf played in the Olympiad for the Argentinian team in the chess US between 1950 and 1976. He played for the first table at Dubrovnik 1950 and in the first table at Helsingfors 1952. And he took 11 Olympic medals, 7, and before the war, in the Polish team, he took 7 team medals for the Polish and Argentina, 4 silver, 3 bronze, and 4 individual medals, 3 golds, 1 silver. The Argentina's best team result was in US in Helsingfors 1952. That's about him. Now we go to this book. It's a very interesting book indeed. And as you can see a picture of him from this play in Argentina. Then it's written from the editor Batsford Chess, and it's called Najdorf Life and Games, and it's the best 130 games of Najdorf is in there, and also inside there is a foreword of Liliana Najdorf. It's one of the 2 daughters Najdorf had. And I quote Liliana Najdorf. She wrote a foreword of this book. She wrote a few words. In principle, it's not difficult to write about my father. I have already written a book on his life, Najdorf by Najdorf, and I still have a great deal to say about him. Sitting in front of my screen, however, it occurs to me that anything I say will have a certain minus side, since if there is one quality that characterizes my father, it's just this: everything about him was on the grand scale. He was indeed larger than life, in good things and bad, simple things and complex. Such a person lives with passion, loves passion, suffers loss with passion, and dies with passion. And such, dear readers, was my papa. He lived in Buenos Aires but passed away in Malaga, Spain. He had traveled to that city against the advice of his doctors, and in so doing, he enacted his destiny. It was fated that death should find him playing in a casino and living life to the full in the way he understood it. I'm not going to stay here just sitting down and hoping to die, he used to say. When my time comes, it will take 5 tracks to drag me home and find me in a place where chess is being played, and so it was. A tournament was being held in Spain and he was there. It was while playing in the casino that he began to feel unwell. The doctors said that if they didn't operate his heart urgently to replace a valve, he would not live. And in fact, it was what happened. The operation failed and he died. Here, to Poland and Argentina by Tomasz Lissowski. I read a few lines about it. Quote, Grandmaster Najdorf was a unique personality in the history of the royal game. In the course of his long and rich career, he had the opportunity to play tournament games of a very high quality against no less than 11 world champions who held the title during his lifetime. Jussi Capablanca, Alexander Alyoshin, Max Oev, Michel Botvinnik, Vasily Smyslov, Michel Tal, Bobby Fischer, and Anatoly Karpov, and against the second official world champion Emanuel Lasker, but only in his dream, he is later recalled with regret. So, he was a grandiose man, and well, what shall I say? He was also awarded Hall of Fame in FIDE 2022, where the FIDE chairman speech about him and raised him to the FIDE. There were 33 other chess players in Hall of Fame, and now Najdorf was celebrated in there as well. So the structure of the book, if we talk about that, is like this. All these chapters, as you can see. I will talk a little bit about it. As you can see, there, for instance, a chapter about Najdorf and the endgame, and in that case I will tell you that even world champions have strengths and at least one weaknesses. Here's the backside if you want to see. Weaker points in their chess play. And Najdorf was very strong in middle game, in strategic, in tactical. He was a very active player, but he was a little bit weaker in the endings. And in this book, they give some examples how he failed in some endings. Even when he won some endings, he could have won even better. But that's only a few of these weak points. By the 130 games, there is one immortal game. It's called, by Tartakov has said, it's the immortal game of Poland. it's an immortal game of Najdorf. And he has black in this game, and it's a very impressive game. And he has commented this game. As black against Glücksberg. It was played in Warsaw when he was, I think, 19 years old or so. And he had black against another player called Glücksberg. And I will now show you the game with his comments and see what you think. It looks like this. So let's start this famous game. It's famous because some other grandmasters has commented this game as one of the outstanding games. It started like this. Glücksberg has white and played d4, and black plays f5. It's a bit risky, but also very well known as a Dutch defense. Nowadays we have many grandmasters playing the Dutch. For instance, Simon Williams is very famous for the Dutch, one among others. I think Vassily Smyslov also played the Dutch, actually. But c4 was a play. I can give a comment and say that at this time, 1930, there was no computers, so that means that even the grandmaster had no computers to help them in the analyzing tools, so they had to analyze physical themselves. So one has to have it in mind. It was before the computer time. So, of course, knight f6. This is a theory of the Dutch. And here you can play many things, but knight c3 is more normal. Even sometimes g3 is played. Here, there are even some playing g6, so that's another way, but e6 is quite normal. And knight f3. And d5. Also d6 is possible, but d5 is played. And now this is called the Stonewall structure. And pros and cons is that black gets weak squares on the black squares, and but strong side for black is the e4 point, which is very important, even e5. It's often strategical. One can also mention that the black-white bishop is weak or is poor because it's stopped at its own pawns. But still, there is this maneuvering and it's a close position, so many things can happen before that. So, let's see. Yes, so, yes. So now e3 was played. And c6. Now it's a real Stonewall. Now this Stonewall is the pawn structure is like a Stonewall. That's why it's called a Stonewall. So now comes bishop d3. And normal development, d6. I have to go back and tell you that today, before e3, bishop f4 is much stronger because it gets to the dark black squares, weak black squares. But he played these and bishop d3, yes. And then comes bishop d6. And castle. And castle. And here, more logical and better was to play b3 and bishop b2 to try to pressure on the diagonal, which is quite weak for black. And also can play b3, a3, b4, or b3, bishop b2, queen to c1, and pressure on that diagonal as well. This is black's good bishop, this is black's bad bishop. If you can exchange the black bishop, white gets an advantage on the black field. But Glücksmann played another way. It's also possible, but not as strong as the other way. Here you can also play bishop, knight to e4. It's also another way to play, and it gets about equal. But Najdorf played bishop d7. And here you should play the idea is to play f4. This is not good. b3 is much better. But he played knight to g5. It's a dubious move because it's unprotected, and even if the idea from white side is to play f2, f4 to stop the possibility for a black bishop to come out, it is too slow and the piece is unprotected. And this gives opportunity for black to use it to take initiative or to be tactical. So I wonder if you can find a good way for black to play on here. So I give you some thoughts. What do you think black is playing here? Well, you have to calculate, but if you calculate right, you find that you will win some tempi, so you can try to sacrifice here. I think it's very, very interesting. And if you take here, for instance, comes bishop b4, and you have to go back, and then you win a pawn, and you get the initiative as black, and the pawn more. So you will have a better position, and a weaker king's position. But white tried to be clever to play king to h1, not to lose with a combination. But of course, now black played g4 to get the extra tempo, because this knight is unprotected, so he has to protect it. So I played f4. And how should black go on in the initiative and the attack? Do you have any idea here? Well, if you think that you can raise the attack, you're right, but how? Well, you have to use your pieces in active area, and one of them is queen to e8, of course, because you have to get your pieces to the king's side as fast as possible. The protection of pawns for white is spoiled quite a lot. The black squares are weak, so you have to use it, of course. So that's what you do. Now, black has to protect, to get rid of this, because if the queen comes to h5, then it's mate there very soon. So white plays g3 to protect the king, to escape place for the king. And now black, of course, rushed to the king's side, and here tries to attack, and white tried to run away from the threat of mate. And now we come, how does black continue this combination? Here says Najdorf, when playing bishop to h2 check, I had analyzed this position and concluded it was good for me because of the following stroke. I ask you, what was the stroke? If black plays wrong here, he will get in trouble, and white can escape the king. One of the biggest threats from white's side is to put the rook on h7 from f1 to h1, and to get a pin on the pieces there. And also take back the knight to attack the other side. So what was a move to go on with a deadly attack from black side? Well, if you found bishop g1, you are excellent in the calculation, because that's a deadly threat. If it takes with a rook, it's check, king f3 and mate f2, so that's not possible. Is threatening queen to h2 and mate, so I think the only defense for white is to play knight to g1 to get rid. So what king can escape to f3 and perhaps over to the queen side. So that what is. And now, if you do nothing as black and try to develop it, so you will lose because white has a piece more. So you have to play very active to get compensation for the piece. So of course you have to play queen to h2, of course. And there is only one square, king to f3. Here says the commentary from Najdorf was, I had concluded as far as here, when attacking you are not interested in whether you are material down. The important thing is the situation of the king, as you can see. And here it was very exposed. I realized that in a case like this, the position had to be opened up, and without hesitation, I played once. This is not enough to mate the king, so what has black to do to raise the attack? You have an idea? Well, if you found e6, e5, you are on the right spot, because that's what you have to play to activate your other pieces. So that's what happened. And it's a double question mark, because it's a very good one. What it threatens is e4, and you will lose back your piece, and you take the f pawn, you will raise, or with the d pawn, sorry, you will raise the attack even more. So white has to take the pawn to get rid of this threat of e4. And of course he has to take with the d pawn to protect the king. And now how can black continue the attack, because the king's position is so exposed, so there must be something in the position that makes it the mating attack going on. Can you find it? If you find the second sacrifice of a knight, like knight to d5, you're on the right track. That's what you have to do. And of course, you have to take the knight. So now it's 2 pieces less. And of course, you take with this knight. So you have 3 pawns against 2 pieces. But the king has to go up, because it can't go somewhere else. And now the attack goes on, knight to d5. And, well, there is no other place to go to than to back to king f3. And now is the last time I ask you, how will you continue the attack in this position as black? Take a deep look and try to calculate how to finish white's king up. Of course you play f4, because it opens the attack for the black-white bishop. It opens the attack against the king for the rook. And if the pawn disappears, it will be over for white. So if we take with the d pawn, it's knight h4 mate. And if you take here, there, then it's bishop g4, king takes, and perhaps I should, so